welcome. We're here with our weekly session for strategies to support your mental, physical, emotional well-being. And if you catch this later, you can always connect if you need more information, a one-on-one consultation, or like the PDF guide. I'm here to support you and we'll get you what you need. So, quick review of what we kind of touched on last time. We were talking a lot about how we can naturally support our serotonin. So, and I do have a recording if you need that, but we talked about how our little neurons in our brain work and what it looks like when that serotonin is being received properly and what it looks like when it's not and it's being retaken up, whether that's because of medication or other things that are blocking the neuron. It could be synthetic chemicals in our environments, additives and foods, things like that can interfere with these neurons. So there's, a few different factors. And sometimes it's just that we're not making enough serotonin. So that's what we've been kind of talking about is ways to help support our brain's ability to do that. So this was a really nice chart, and I shared this with some of you guys last time. So if you want this, then tell me and I can send it over. But I really liked how this kind of broke it down by different things that challenges we might have going on and what specific like herbs and things we can use. A lot of these you can get in a tea, which I like that because it's easy to take. But you can also look for supplements, and that's one of the reasons that I love to recommend the one I call it a brain drink, but which really does a lot more than that. Because it does have a lot of these things in there to help with mental health, help with mood regulation, support things like our natural serotonin production and hormones and things like that. But these are all really great herbs. Some of these are easier to find, some of them are harder. So don't be like, I have to find all these. No, just pick a couple and try to maybe incorporate a couple of them if you can. Whether that's a tea or a supplement or whatever it is. So, passion flower I've used, and kava, lemon balm, those are more commonly found in supplements and teas typically. This one I haven't seen a whole lot. And those ones help a lot with the more obsessive compulsive, with anxiety. They're kind of more calming, generally speaking. Gouda cola, that's not as common either, but we've heard about ginkgo biloba and lion's mane. These are really good brains. So we have, of course, really good support for Parkinson's, Huntington's disease, Alzheimer's, anything where we need to really stimulate those neurons in the brain and help with the overall health of the brain. These ones are good for anxiety. They also help naturally balance our cortisol a little bit. So lowering cortisol a little, helping make sure that when we do need it, there is enough, and can help with eating disorders as well. So that was really interesting there. Psychosis, schizophrenia, psychic more disorders, the saffron, and I haven't seen devil's pepper a lot. So that's uncommon, but the saffron I've seen more in teas and things like that and supplements. Really good for helping with those kind of more mood disorder type things, or as they called it, here's a psychosis. And then we have other mood disorders here, where St. John's wort, that's fairly common to see, can help. Albizia, mucuna, and I can't say that one. Psilocybin. I think that one's in the mushroom family. Those ones are less common to find. So again, like I said, don't worry, like I have to find all these. No, like pick one or something if you feel like it's an area that you would like support. And I say look for tea first at like a health food store, because that's probably the easiest way. And you can always put more than one tea bag in a cup and kind of do like a little bit of lemon balm with maybe a St. John's wort or something, or with like a saffron, or you might need some honey because some herbs can be a little bit bitter, or lemon, honey and lemon possibly. And I always say, if you can do cinnamon, getting a good organic cinnamon and adding that into a tea is a great addition as well for most people. And then we talked about these strategies on how we can also support our brain's ability to produce its serotonin. Are we getting enough healthy fats? So that's our omega 3s. That's going to be your fish oils. I don't overdo it on fish. Sometimes they can have some heavy metals and parasites and things, but so good clean fish. There was one of my clients was talking about the other day. That was a nice more clean option for fish. I'll find it later and I'll send it to you guys. Um, your avocados, your um, cold pressed organic olive oil, and you don't want to cook with olive oil, but to just use it, drizzle it on things that you're eating. And even if, let's say you're eating just like some chips or crackers, right? Find a way to bring in something that's kind of the healthier, good fats and proteins with that. So maybe a hummus dip where you drizzle some olive oil and maybe put some herbs or pine nuts or some other things on top, or even sunflower seeds or whatever. And then you have this like yummy dip that you're doing, and maybe a little sea salt or seasonings if you like too for some flavor. And then you're still enjoying your crunchy chip, but you're adding some good proteins and omegas. And that's one of the things that I teach a lot in my sessions with clients and things, because a lot of our common diet programs and nutritional programs and things out there talk a lot about take away, get rid of the bad, get rid of the bad, which is not always wrong, but it actually, you get a lot more benefits and it makes it easier to add in the good first and slowly phase out the thing that's not as healthy, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. So yeah, you're having a little chips. Okay, add some good protein and omega 3s, nuts and seeds with it, or some sort of hummus dip, or make yourself a bowl of like a chicken salad in your fridge with avocado, celery, herbs, lots of herbs, parsley, cilantro, whatever herbs you like in there, some nice sea salt, seasonings, garlic, like dice up a lot of fresh garlic in there, right? And make yourself a healthy, chicken salad, or if you like to do the shredded up like salmon, I'll send you guys the brand that was like a healthier option for that, or tuna kind of like salad that you can have in the fridge. You can even dice up some hard-boiled eggs in it too. Keep that in your fridge. Use relish, and if you like mayonnaise, or like use like a garlic aioli that's more organic instead. So you can still get that kind of same texture and taste, but better than a lot of the other options. That can be a dip. That can be a high protein option for when you are having crackers or chips or something like that. But you're going to be able to help get that protein in there. That's going to support hormone balance, brain health, your serotonin, your neurotransmitters. Even it helps support your metabolism and your blood sugar balance, which is huge, because if that's not balanced, it impacts so many things. So I wanted to highlight that a little bit. We've talked a lot about sleep, but if you feel like that's an area that is a big challenge for you still, reach out and I can send you some more information and helpful strategies. Some supplements can help. Like I said, I definitely recommend, I like the one I call the brain drink, because there's so much in there that's good for mental health and really supports our brain's own balance of our serotonin, thyroid balance, adrenal health, endocrine health, so many different areas, blood sugar balance as well, things like that. So something like that is really great, especially when it's something easy that you can take and you can mix into water or juice or whatever. Sunlight. We really underestimate the power of sunlight. Obviously, I'm not saying to go out and get crispified and burnt, right? We've talked about this before, but I like to touch on it just because I think in our society, we're often stuck sitting in front of a computer or a device of some kind, or we're watching the TV. We're indoors quite a lot in just our typical daily routines with work or whatever. Even people who don't necessarily work or retired or whatever, it's still, there's a lot of indoor stuff that tends to be happening. Not much fresh air. And I know in the city it's not super fresh, but it's still something. Get out, get a walk 5 minutes. Okay. It doesn't have to be very long. 5 minutes once a day. Start with once a day. If you can do more, great, do more. If you skip a day, if you miss a day, you have not failed. It's okay. Just try to do the next day. Even if you get it in 2 to 3 times a week, that is way better than none. That is a lot better than, even if you only were able to do it once a week, that is still way better than zero. Okay. So give yourself credit and celebrate that you even did it once a week or twice a week or whatever. Celebrate those little things. Find a way to give yourself that little like pat on the back, like, yes, I did something, right? Something is way better than nothing. Sunlight, you can even just sit in a window. If it's hot or super cold outside or something like that, sit in a window where the sunlight is coming through. Don't stare your eyeballs at the sun. We don't want to burn the eyeballs, but get that sunlight on you, especially anytime before 10 a.m. while you are eating your breakfast or having your tea or coffee or something like that, or reading a book or whatever, doing your devotions or journaling, sit and get a little bit of that sun. That's going to be so beneficial. Even again, if it's only 5 minutes, if you can do 10 or 15, great. If not, that's okay. If you can bring together a couple of these strategies at once, like walking is your movement and exercise, take a few deep breaths, right? Think of some things that you're grateful for. You're bringing together while you're out in the sun, in your yard or whatever, wherever you are, or do some stretching and get your feet on the ground. We've talked about that grounding, right? On your grass, on your dirt, whatever you have, even pavement, your concrete patio is better than, your plastic shoes or fake grass or something else that's more synthetic, right? Any of that is going to be better. While you're getting that sunlight, you're grounding, take a few deep breaths, think of things that they're grateful for, focused on prayer, scripture, and you're getting a little bit of that sunlight. Boom. Like I can tell you, you're going to feel a lot better, even if it's only for a few minutes. So, and then obviously socialization, as humans, we are made for community. Some people are more introverted, so we don't need as much, maybe sometimes, but still some interaction really helps. I was just talking to another practitioner the other day, and she's like, she went to a professional development thing, and they were saying, like, as professionals, we should also spend time with each other because we inspire each other. We encourage each other. We learn from each other. And that is just true in general as humans. We can inspire each other, encourage each other. If the people in your circle are not doing that, then you maybe look for some new people to spend more time with. But that is what we should be doing. Does it have to be every day? No, like once or twice a week, depending on what you feel like really fits your needs, is great, and for us, that looks like we go to church, right? We have a small group of friends that we get together with weekly, those kinds of things. It can look like, a game night with friends. It can look like so many, just going to dinner with friends or whatever that looks like. Meeting with a mentor or counselor, that's something as well. But find those ways to get that inspiration, get out of your little box of your normal everyday, it's not monotony, but routine, if you will. Getting out of that box a little bit can really help give you that boost. And that's chemically, it's a scientific chemical thing too. It's going to help with serotonin and oxytocin, as well as other things. And then we kind of already touched on these in some of the other areas, so this is already there. But obviously, stress relief is going to be good. Your tension relief, your stretching, your massage therapy, things like that. Those are also really, really helpful. So there's kind of the summary. You can use herbs and teas. You can use nutrition, which we touched on that the time before with the proteins, salmons, right? So proteins, your omegas, your leafy greens, making sure you're getting enough of your magnesium. It doesn't have to be chocolate, but Also nuts and seeds have magnesium, but and it says whole grains, which we've kind of talked about that before, but you can do, quinoa. Oats are not top of my list, but if you love oatmeal, get a good certified organic oatmeal, you'll be fine. But I always say partner it with some protein so you're not spiking your blood sugar. But you can use quinoa, your brown rice, your buckwheat, flaxseed, those kinds of things too, and do some different things. So there's a lot of different options. Your B vitamins are going to be important, which are in the brain drink that I've mentioned before. And then omegas and proteins. Those are those top areas that you want to make sure you're getting enough of, even if you're adding them to something you're already snacking on that's not super amazing. That's still going to be helpful. This just kind of breaks down some of the different happiness chemicals that our brain has. I need to replace this because it was a little bit blurry, but our dopamine, right? Our oxytocin, our serotonin, and then like our endorphins, like our adrenaline and stuff. So, and then of course, movement, sunlight, nature, your vitamin D. We've talked about that. If you're low on vitamin D and you need a recommendation, I do have a sublingual one that I like. That's really nice. But of course, getting out in the sun also helps, and having, enough of the right nutrition, aminos and proteins. Those are some of the top things that are going to support our serotonin. Okay. Now, I want to talk about a couple other things, and I'll probably finish this next week. Some other things that impact our serotonin, all of our happy chemicals really are serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, and our hormone balances like our estrogen and progesterone. If we are low in progesterone, we will typically have more mood issues. So that's something to keep an eye on. So I think maybe next time we'll talk more about progesterone specifically, because that's like a whole other thing that we can go into. But it's important to understand that anything in our environment that's kind of more synthetic is going to impact our neurons in our brain. That includes, and I'm going to get into this in a second, that includes our EMFs. What are EMFs? Those are the electromagnetic radiation frequencies that come off of our devices, like computers, cell phones, TVs, Wi-Fi routers, microwaves. And I'll go through some of these things and what we can do to help in a little bit here. But here you can just see from cell phone usage. So like normal function is usually like the green, the blue, kind of more purplish colors, right? Yellow is like so. The unhealthy inflammation and dysfunction is going to show up with the red. So after using a cell phone, it's huge. And I've seen some patients who they had tumors right where their phone was. Or one gentleman, he worked a job where he had a headset thing for his phone with like a Bluetooth and stuff for, I forget how long he worked that job. I think it was like 30 years. And he ended up with a tumor, like literally right where that was. And the EMFs are a big reason why. So things like our EMFs, as well as other synthetics in our environment, have a really, really big impact on our neurons, on our hormones, on our ability to produce our serotonin, on our ability to keep that balanced estrogen, progesterone, and everything, because they're going to directly impact the neurons and our cells' ability to send and receive those signals. So this is kind of a diagram. This one's focused on serotonin, but you can also see when our serotonin, our levels of estrogen directly impact our body's ability to produce our serotonin. So if we have imbalance in one or the other, you can see how it's gonna impact each other. So when we have things that are blocking the synapse here, and this is with a neuron, but it's kind of a similar diagram when you're looking at any cell receptor sites in our body. You can see that it's more difficult for the body to use the serotonin that's supposed to be transferred between those neurons to keep going where it needs to go in the brain and everything. And that's the same thing for like hormones are very similar. It's just going to be a cell instead of a synapse. And we should be able to receive those, hormones, whatever it might be, and send them to where they need to go to do what they need to do. But oftentimes there's something blocking or interfering, causing an issue with that. And sometimes the EMFs are causing that, affecting that, especially when it comes to the brain and neurons. A lot of impact there. And the reality is, many of our houses, we have a lot of devices. We have TVs and phones and Wi-Fi routers and um goodness, microwaves and so many things, right? So what can we do? I'll get to that in just a minute, but I do want to go over really quick some of the effects. One of the seminars I went to, they shared a story of one of the doctors, his daughter, that she was, I can't remember, I want to say 14 or 15, and he said for as long as they could remember, she would wake up and be really, really angry. Like just waking up, she would be angry. And they could not figure out what was going on. And like nobody ever wanted to go in and wake her up because she was so angry. Well, when he started studying EMFs, he saw that her room was super high in electromagnetic radiation. They found out her room was right above the garage opener. There was like a Wi-Fi router, a whole bunch of things where the levels of EMFs in her room were hundreds of thousands of levels above what is like even normal. And even normal levels are probably not amazing anyways. So when they were able to block those and they made some adjustments, he said for the first time in many, many, many years, he was able to go into her room and wake her up. And she rolled over and she said, "Hi, good morning, Dad." And she just woke up happy. And he just was like, "Oh my goodness, this is totally insane." I've never, never, ever, ever seen her do that. So that's kind of a story that shows how these EMFs and things can have such a big impact on our brain and our mood, our neurotransmitters like our serotonin, among other things. So some of those effects that can happen, and sometimes it takes time. It's not often like an instant thing, although we are seeing now even people who have like the electric cars and the Teslas and things that they're starting to have some of the issues with the EMS. Why? Because those cars rely on a lot of electrical signals, and the batteries in those cars put up quite a bit of radiation where it's affecting these areas. The neurological system, obviously, which is what we're talking about here. Cellular effects throughout the body, sometimes even DNA damage can contribute to things like leukemia, can trigger genetic propensities that are already there in the DNA for things like cancer, breast cancer, skin cancer, so on and so forth, can affect things like fertility and sperm motility, all those kinds of things, the blood-brain barrier as well. This is like a whole other syndrome, but as a skin issues, basically, electromagnetic sensitivity, reduction of blood oxygen flow. And this is kind of a similar summary of areas that are affected: nervous system, altered sleep cycles. Sleep can definitely be impacted. Neurodegenerative issues, tinnitus or ear issues have been connected, especially when it comes to like cell phone usage and stuff like that. Reproductive effects. This can definitely affect hormones, fertility, lots and lots of different things. Cardiovascular system. It can have some effects. Lymphatic system. Definitely there's a lot of studies showing a direct link with many different types of cancers and things like that as well. Okay. Same thing here, kind of just a different way to depict those same issues that can show up. So we talked about, this one is more the synthetic chemicals that we find in our environment. So I highly encourage you, if you haven't already, to make sure you are using an app like the EWG is a free app you can use on your phone, or what's the other? Ingreed, like ingredients, but INGRED, both free apps that you can scan your products at the store for synthetic chemicals, because the synthetic chemicals are also going to be causing those same blockages in neurons and cells and endocrine disruption. And the EMFs cause issues. It's a slightly different way, but they're also causing similar issues. This is just a depiction of some of those chemicals to be aware of and how they impact different systems in the body. But the basic concept is they're blocking the sending and receiving of signals. So some of those chemicals to watch out for, I didn't pull up the full list today, but I can do that next time. Things like your parabens, phthalates, when it just says fragrance and it doesn't really, say like this is, rosemary or something, and it just says fragrance, and that's, a red flag, things like that. Those are all things that you want to watch out for. And we've already gone through in some of our other sessions, food additives and things as well. Those are synthetic as well, like your aspartames and your um nitrates, those food dyes, things like that. Those are all going to be things to watch out for. And those are all in the apps that I mentioned. So you can just look things up at the store, and it kind of saves you some time and energy. So what can we do to improve this function? This kind of just talks about the effects of cell phone radiation specifically. Cell phone is one of the highest on the list of radiation. So that's why I kind of wanted to show this so you can see there's different levels of different things like our microwaves are in here, which is kind of like a medium level of harmful radiation. So that's why I say don't stand next to your microwave. And honestly, our food loses nutrients when we use a microwave. I know it's hard, but we often use we got like a toaster oven air fryer. We often use that instead of microwave, or you can use a stovetop. There's ways of getting around it, but I know it's tough because we're such a microwave society. TVs put off a little bit, things like Wi-Fi radios Wi-Fi routers and radios also put off some, but radios are pretty low. Computers are kind of on the lower end as well. But with computers, where one of the bigger concerns is the blue light coming right into our eyes, and it goes straight to our brain. And that often confuses our brain and causes lower serotonin levels, among other things. So with screens in general, TVs, computers, or, tablets, phones, it's more about the blue light. So what can we do? You can get blue light glasses. I was reading that if you can get ones that are like a little bit amber tinted, that's going to be better. You can also change the settings on your screens to be an amber setting on your screens. That helps too. And then we're supposed to be taking a break every 45 minutes from screens. Somewhere between, I think it was like 10 to 20-minute break or more is better to help our brain to reset and support better healthy neurochemicals in our brains and everything like that. You can also use things in your environment to help block. So the next week, actually, one of the companies I work with is releasing EMF blockers. They're like little stickers. So you can also use those to help block. You can use things like, if you've seen those salt lamps people get, it looks like a rock, but it's like a lamp. The minerals, there are certain minerals that help to block some of the EMFs and harmful radiation that come off of our devices. So a lot of people like to get those little lamps and put them next to their computer, next to their TVs, next to where they sleep, those kinds of things. So those are options. If you guys want, I can send like an Amazon link for that or something. Here you can see some of the more intense things like X-rays, gamma rays. Those are much more harmful, much higher on the radiation. So this is if you would say, the more harmful spectrum of EMF radiations. Now, what people get confused with is that there are something called frequency therapies. And now we're seeing this in a lot of advanced medical facilities, like even Mayo clinics and specialized neurology therapies. This is what they were doing in the concussion therapy for my daughters too. Frequency therapies are different frequencies, if you will. These are types of frequencies that are more harmful that are beneficial. So, for example, when it comes to the sunlight, the warm, more red rays of the sunlight, the amber rays of the sunlight, if you will, actually have some benefits. And that's why we say before 10 a.m. in the morning is the optimal time. If you do it a little later in the day, that's okay. You just might want a little mineral sunscreen because later in the day, there's more blue light from the sun. There's more actual ultraviolet rays from the sun coming through. Depending on where you live, you might have more radiation coming through in the heat of the day as well. Like in Arizona, our ozone layers are depleted. So we have more harmful radiation coming through from the sun, especially in the heat of the day. Okay, so things that are more helpful. That's why now, I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a lot of red light therapy devices coming out. What's that red light? They're using that same frequency of the warm amber red light rays like the sun, the morning sun, but they've kind of put it into these different types of devices and things. Yes, it helps with inflammation. It's healing. It helps with lots of different things. So you can look into getting a red light therapy of some sort that you can have at home too. And people love to use that 1, 2, 3 times a day, whatever they need. Sometimes it's like literally there's like ones that are for the skin, and then there's ones that are just like a little lamp. So there's different ways. Things like that are beneficial, and there's all different types of things that can be used. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys to just kind of understand that there's things that are not helpful, and then some types of frequency therapies that are actually very helpful. So overall, the general concept is more nature, less synthetic, right? That's the general theme. Really being careful about screens and devices. Use some blue light blocking. If you can, use EMF blockers when you're able. Things like the little salt lamps and stuff like that that can help mitigate a little bit. There are different types of light. Like I said, understanding that there are the warm amber rays that are more helpful and the ultraviolet that are not as helpful. Watching out for those synthetic chemicals in your environment because those are going to contribute to the problems, those same types of problems. So really watching out for what's in your environment, and don't feel overwhelmed. One thing at a time. Let's say you run out of shampoo and you know it was a more synthetic shampoo. Just next time you're at the store, you're going to replace that. Just look for a better option for that one thing. And then just little by little by little, start switching things out in your home for better, more natural options. Some of them you can order online. I have recommendations if you need ideas for that. And then there's different options to help with blocking the EMFs and the blue light, like the blue light glasses and things like that, or specifically like different blue light block EMF blockers, things like that. So we already talked about the risks and the issues. There's even some EMFs that come off of certain types of light bulbs. Those newer I'm blanking on the name of them, but those newer bulbs that are really bright, they actually have some EMFs coming off of them. I know. It's crazy, right? Radios, Wi-Fi, so on and so forth, right? You can even get a little EMF blockers for when you wear earbuds. If you like to wear, especially those you know what I mean, those little earbuds, they put off EMFs that are not very good for our brain. So you can put little blockers on those or choose not to use little earpods. There we go. AirPods. That's the word I'm looking for. You can choose not to use them, or you can find ways of blocking that. So here's kind of a summary of some of the things that can be done. There are shields that are sold for the home because even some EMFs come off of outlets in our house. So there's little things that you can get, or like the EMF sticker ones that I'm talking about that we're gonna have available, I think next week, that you can put on those kinds of things. That makes it easier. Avoiding Bluetooth as much as you can. I know that's hard in today's society because it's like everywhere, but those types of things can help. And then more nature, right? You're gonna, choose more healthy food options. So you're helping your body in that way to be able to be more resilient when you are, walking outside and there's 5G in the air or something, right? Getting out in nature, keeping more plants. Actually, that's another thing. There are several plants that actually absorb radiation and help with EMFs in your environment. So like some of those house plants like the snake plant and the spider plant and the aloe vera is a really good one. There's a few of them. So next time, maybe I'll try and put a list for you guys of that you can have in your home. Plants in your home help to mitigate that and block some of those things as well. I thought that was so interesting when I saw that there's specific plants that actually help absorb radiation and get rid of radiation. I was like, what? Nature's so amazing. So, and then just being aware of like where your neighborhood is, those kinds of things that, can be factors. Like, are you near a cell phone tower? Are you, if your neighbor has solar panels are great, but if they don't have a shield on their converter box, that can be a concern. Now, most companies now try to make sure that those shields are on the converter boxes, but just being aware of that. And if that converter box is right next to where you sleep, on like the other side of the fence or something, maybe it's something to take a look at. You could probably get something to help, block that. Those kinds of things are all options. Reach out if you have questions. I hope that it was really helpful for you guys.